I think now his connection is gone.
So, welcome to the another web series entitled COVID-19 and Digital Economy, which is the Asian Institute of Diplomacy and International Affairs present. And AIDIA is the foreign policy-based think tank in Kathmandu. To discuss on this subject, we have very prominent speakers. Chief of Staff, Mr. Azad Jafarli from ASAN Service, which is a state agency for public service and social innovations under the President of the Republic of Azerbaijan. Similarly, from Bangladesh, Dr. Kamrul Asan supposed to join with us, but due to some technical difficulties, he is unable to join with us right at the moment. Similarly, from Nepal with us, Mr. Saurav Dhakal, who is the founder, CEO of Green Growth Nepal, and Biswas Baral, Editor-in-Chief, Annapurna Express. So basically, we have divided this discussion in four major parts. First, we will hear the nature of service offered by the company in which our speakers are associated with. In second part, we'll deal about the significance of digital economy. And in third part, we'll deal about the challenges of digital economy, and finally, how the future of digital economy will look like. So to begin with, let me just briefly set the context. The global economy is rapidly undergoing a digital transformation. The advancement of ICT is contributing to increased productivity, enlarged market reach, and shrink of operational costs. Digital supply networks and platforms are fundamentally changing the notion of conventional business and service model. For instance, the world's largest taxi company, Uber, doesn't have its own vehicles. Alibaba, largest retailers with no inventory, and so on and so forth. But with the outbreak of coronavirus, we are facing the unprecedented challenges. As of today, the coronavirus confirmed cases have crossed more than 2 million, and with 150,000 plus deaths. We will discuss how digital economy will support to deal with this major global crisis. So to begin with, I'd like to request each of you to share the services of your respective company or agency that you are offering by digital platforms and some of the key achievements as well. Can I begin this conversation with Azad sir from ASAN Service?
Good. Thank you very much. Thank you for this kind initiative. I welcome your idea to address this very topic. And taking some advance, I would also like to welcome the other participants of this web seminar, Mr. Dhakal and also Mr. Baral. And you, your good self, Mr. Shyam. I'm representing the State Agency for Public Services and Social Innovations, and it was very interesting for us to see how the accessing public services is inevitable for the life of the and well-being of the citizens, especially in time of pandemic. We have been all talking about the SDGs as from the date of their adoption until today, and we were always talking about the sustainability. And therefore, we have these 17 goals and also the targets. And we have been always striving for the best achievements in the context of the Agenda 2030 and to report to each other what success stories we have gained out of this action. But suddenly we realized that there are some elements we are all missing. So we now grasped in this very context of the fight against COVID-19, what the accessibility is, what the transparency is, and what significance we have to place in the meaning of those principles, including right-based approach and others. So we, as the the public services and social innovations, we did our best in order to ensure the an unhindered access to the public services that we render. For that purpose, we have 18 public service centers that are named ASAN service centers. And in order to really achieve this very sustainability, given the current regime is still ongoing in our country, and we are also in a lockdown situation, and we have a special regime for leaving the homes and also for leaving the district residents within their own place of the living and to pass to other districts. So we put the different types of the innovations. And one of them was the electronic system for the permissions. It worked really well because we got on the first day some millions of the SMS permissions. And this is a system that has been put in effect within 2 days after the regulation has been adopted by the operational headquarters under the Cabinet of Ministers. And we achieved to create a kind of the groups for the legal persons, for the state entities, but also individual citizens to send their permissions, or pardon, the applications for the permissions, and to instantly receive the responses according to the groups. And it really worked well because we achieved on the one hand the transparency. So those that didn't get the permissions were well aware of the result and its root causes. And on the other hand, it was very accessible, so there was no any inequality vis-a-vis the people living in the big cities and those that find themselves in the remote areas, because internet access in Azerbaijan is ensured almost the 80% of the whole country, but the mobile phone penetration rate is over 100%. It means that sometimes people might have several devices per person, including the smartphones. So they were able to send their SMS according to the PIN codes and also the special the ID card numbers and get these permissions. And it was also very, very interesting, but also very effective tool also to benefit from the data behind of it. So we had a chance to monitor and understand that out of this 100% of all the people applied for, there were also some who were just abusing this prerogative. So it was also a very good tool in order to raise the awareness of the people that they should respect others, you know, the right of the others, and therefore they don't need really to keep this very traffic high. And by this way, we afterwards, after having explained it, all these advantages for the people, we get the very, very positive feedback of the people. Another very issue that I want to briefly to describe, not to monopolize the floor, was that we were capable to benefit from the physical services, electronic services, but also mobile services. And here I wanted to articulate that if we are talking about an unhindered access to the public services, social welfare services, and also sustainability, then it's through the diversification. It's not only about the e-data digitalization in our practice. It's in case when you have several options available and applicable, workable and effective. A citizen of Azerbaijan can ask for a particular public service by calling our phone number 108, and we can send the fast deployment group. They can offer the same services right on the spot. These are the people, our professionals that wear the special dresses with the camouflage and others, and they can just on the spot render the same services. Or you can call to 108 and you can get your queue either online or by the phone call according to your schedule and according to the division that we do, because we respect the social and safety of the clients, and you can get it in our physically in our service center. Or you can also enter to our portal of the e-government and public services. So we have been reassured in these days of pandemic that to really achieve the sustainability which is inevitable in such a situation, we need to benefit from different tools and instruments. We need to have e-services, very good, the portal for that purpose. We need the integration of the data behind of it. We need physical services, but also we need mobile services. So with that, we minimized the difficulties of the citizens that were not certainly living up in conditions that we call business as usual, but at least they had an access to them from any angle of the country, and they were getting the answers for all their questions, because we were responding more than hundreds of thousands of the questions per day through the Facebook page or 108 call center, Instagram, and we have instrumentalized other tools as well, because we have also the great number of the volunteers that are working in the social media. And well, I can conclude that we need a sustainability, we need the electronization, we need a smart concepts, and only through achieving the philosophy and also spirit of the SDG, Sustainable Development Goals, and also on the other hand, the effective institutions, we can really, we can gain and we can make the difficulties of this time our advantage. So we can make the advantage of this time. So more or less, this was our very good experience. We have a number of the countries now, they are learning this very experience. We are open to share this very good well, experiment with them. Among them, we have also the colleagues from Nepal and some countries of Central Asia, but also the Eastern Europe, Middle East. And now we are also planning to have another very gathering in the format of the web conference in order to learn from each other, to see what were the means and ways that we instrumentalized and experienced during these days of the pandemic, and how can we benefit from that. And just one very point on the issue that in our understanding, we cannot achieve the best goal of the digital economy if we will not consider this very topic in the from the broader perspective. Because we in order to achieve the digital economy, we need also the digital management, electronic management. So it means that not leaving aside social welfare, not leaving aside the management, both from the government perspective and from the perspective of the civil society, private sector, and individual sector.
Okay, sure. Thank you for your very elaborative presentations. I mean, like, you presented what your company is like offering. Now, I'd like to ask Saurav to give a glance about the what is your like nature of service that you are offering to the different kind of customers. So I think my video is not playing well.
That's fine.
Oh, that's fine. Oh, fine.
Thank you to having me for this webinar. I run a company, and I have some couple of pictures, if you allow me to show that. So I run a company called Green Growth. It's all about food. And so the story start, if you remember, we all Nepali people have remembered that incidents that we have an earthquake on April, the same season. So in next Friday, we are remembering the earthquake that is happening in 2015. So after that earthquake, so before that earthquake, I used to work for the one online platform. It's called Story Cycle. I still used to work for them. But after earthquake, we realized that whether we are, what will be the next steps to work. So food may be the core idea of work that everybody needs to be. So there was also a lot of conversations after the earthquake that we, everyone need to be more sustainable. So they need to be grow by their one food kind of thing. So then we start looking for the different opportunities, whether we can work something on this food sector. So we identify the different farm around our country. So geographically, Nepal is a different terrain, like mountain, hills, and Tarai. And because of this different geographical structure, so we have a variety of fruits, beans, vegetables, and everything we have. But it doesn't have a proper value chain management. So we come up with the idea that why not we promote those local food to the main market. So try to connect with using the ICT tools. So we do a very simple approach. So we identify the farm, but it should be more like local, it's organic, or it should be more like permaculture. We are not promoting the chemical-induced farm or more intensive commercial farming. And then in the second steps, we open up the shop, and our shop is open on Twitter and Facebook. And we do also have a simple web platform where the people can subscribe their order, and we send that order to the different farm, collect those products, and do a home delivery. And the payment system used to be a more like payment at delivery kind of things. And we are working with a couple of farms, so and the variety of the fruits, locally grown fruits. But interestingly, when this COVID-19 and our government start this lockdown, we are not able to source the all product from different part of the country, but we are able to source a vegetable that is around 45 kilometers from the capital of the Kathmandu, from that farm. And now we are sourcing those products with following all kind of safety measures, masks, sanitizers, and everything. And with the due process, we're delivering at the home. Because we listed as an essential goods services. So even in the lockdown, so people can subscribe us. Based on their subscription, we can only deliver thrice a week, like Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. And we are delivering on their home. So, so these are the situations, these are the idea we start 5 years back, but now it's become quite popular. And interestingly, there are many other companies is coming up. Even the big supermarkets are starting delivering their services, essential product of the home delivery kind of things. They can, people can order through Viber, through WhatsApp, even for the online platform. So I think this digital economy is going up in context of Nepal, but there are a lot of issues that we need to be discussed, and maybe in the second phase.
Sure,
a lot of digital divided in terms of this kind of things. So this is the basic introduction of our services. Yeah.
Thank you. So now I'd like to request Biswas to share your share your experiences, and maybe you don't have much to say about your company, so I like to also request you to answer the second question as well. That is what are the imperative and effectiveness of digital economy at the time of the crisis like COVID-19 pandemic? It will be better if you give your analysis regarding the past and present scenario of digital economy and how the transformation is taking place, and what is your reflections on the visible growth of digital economy during the ongoing global public health crisis like this one, or maybe how digital economy is offering the alternative ways for dealing with the crisis in the disrupted supply chains and trade that we are witnessing right now, or what is the scenario that digital economy is providing to us?
Yes, thank you, Shyamji. First of all, to talk about my industry, I'm from media. I edit a weekly newspaper. It's called Annapurna Express, and it's available both in print and in online format. But interestingly, we outsource our printing. The printers said we cannot function during the lockdown. So we have had to shut down our print edition and focus on online edition. And that also, so what we are doing right now is constantly updating our websites with breaking news. In normal times, we focus more on analysis, but now right now, since information is premium, so we are also constantly updating our website. And the related development is that, like I said, when we were delivering the paper to people's home, one of the interesting things they said was, "Why are you delivering it? It might contain virus. Don't bring the newspaper to our homes." So after that we decided, look, people don't want to. It's an expensive process, printing, and even people are very skeptical of reading the printed page. So we said, okay, we'll focus online. So one interesting development that has happened is that the move from a printed newspaper to online platform, that's been accelerated by this epidemic, by this pandemic, because if you look at all the newspapers, even Kantipur and the major newspapers of Nepal, they're just bringing out print very little, 500, 600, maybe 1,000, but not much. So it's just for token print. Everyone is going online. Now, I think what will happen is that after the lockdown is over, and we don't know when it will be over, because we hear that at least there will be partial lockdown for 6, 7, 8 months, maybe even a year. So more and more older people, who used to read the newspaper, they are migrating to online platforms. So will these people go back to reading the physical paper when they come out? We are not sure. So I think this has accelerated the trend of people reading newspapers online. And about your second question, I think from what I hear from people, even from the homes, now they are starting to use online platforms, online payment platforms. They are subscribing to the online e-banking, even older people. And even banks, government-run banks are now offering e-services, and you can pay your electricity bill and your drinking water bill from your bank account, basically. So that trend has really accelerated, and it's been fascinating to watch how quickly people are moving to that, because many, I think younger people were always into e-banking and e-commerce. They were a little into it, but older people, they have very quickly migrated to the online economy. So that transformation has been very interesting to witness, I guess, even in last 20, 25 days. So these are some interesting things I witness, and I also hear from entrepreneurs and my friends in tech industry that this the COVID-19 crisis could be the moment when Nepal really enters the online age, the online transactions, online banking, the online age. So there is thus a little bit of optimism in that sense, in an otherwise very dark times, I'd say.
Okay, thank you, sir. So I'd like to move with Azad, sir, your take on the imperatives and effectiveness of digital economy, especially in the crisis, the time of crisis like COVID-19 we are witnessing right now.
If I may, I want to elaborate on the second question as well.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, so we were talking about digital economy, but the digital economy is based mainly on its electronic services. So if there is no online services, so we can't talk about digital economy, because whatever we produce, at the end of the day, we should offer it to the public through the digital channels or electronic channels. So it means that e-services are very important. But the matter is, or not, all the states are well prepared for that, and they have a very good infrastructure as the main ground. So as again, it's access to internet, it's the literacy, computer skills and literacy, electronic literacy of the population. It's also the simple smart devices, and it's a percentage vis-a-vis the old-fashioned mobile devices. And this is also about the data. There are some nations that are more, I would say, used to the data. So it's before we were used to call them either the list or the register. Now we are using the term data because we are talking about integration and also connection. So do we have a data on all the issues? And I have to share another one, that there is big supermarkets in Azerbaijan, in the capital city of Baku, but also beyond, in Ganja and other cities. Now they are gathering the list of their loyal clients. So whenever they disseminate information, they do it through the mobile phone numbers. So you can get the information that there is an offer. There is a new subsection of the same supermarket just next to your door, so you don't need to move. But there is also the online possibility for ordering something to bring to your address. So you can see that even the actors of the private sector started to really appreciate data. And therefore, it was my personal view at the time when I was participating in the international conference that, okay, we are always talking about the governmental data, but whether or not we have also the data for the private companies that are responsible for its shaping, for its installation, and the government entities that government entities can also benefit from. So it means that like data of the supermarkets, the data of their clientele, so their clients, the data of those that prefer these goods or the products against another goods, and then you can certainly make the prioritization that this area finds this type of the products that has been shown by our fellow colleague, that Mr. Dhakal, on the screen against another region where they prefer, for example, tea of the coffee. But sometimes the government cannot do it on its own, like as the Ministry of Agriculture or so, it's the substructures, but the private sector actors might be in the forefront of their interaction with each and every individual, even those who are not active in the area of agriculture, who are not the entrepreneurs, but who are just, consumers in general. So in that sense, I think during this, the crisis, we also realized that data is not just a physical accumulation of information. It should be effective, it should be vital, it should be realistic, it should be well updated, and it should be also well integrated with each other. And sometimes we can also raise up, in positive sense, the responsibility or the sensitivity of the private actors share with us their experience, like the company that's doing a great job in Nepal, in the example of Mr. Dhakal, and maybe even sometimes they might know the preference of each and every village in a given area of Nepal rather than the Ministry of Agriculture of Nepal, which is a normal case because they are talking and they are dealing with strategy, with the policy, while these guys doing a great job, but they have the opportunity to get in touch with each and every citizen or the habitant, foreigners or the locals alike. So in that sense, I think infrastructure, integration, data are as an element of the overall digitalization, which also somehow includes the digital economy, have proven to be the very important tools of nowadays, but they need to be really something effective, workable, but at the same time doable. Sometimes they exist for the matter of report, but it's my best belief, it's my personal view and conviction that they should be workable, and they are for the people themselves. They should be in favor of the country itself. It's not for reporting somewhere. It's just because we all need an access. We need to feel that even in cases when we are all locked down situation within our household, we still get an access to the government, we get an access to the good private companies, and they can provide all these staff, and we will be safe and secure.
Thank you. Thank you. So, Saurav, sir, your reflection on the significance of digital economy in the crisis like COVID-19?
As an essential service provider, I think it's a very interesting move ahead. That when there is a crisis, there is a vegetable vendors, medical supplier, other essential services, all are gone through this digital platform, and they are providing services at the household. But at the same time, if you see very seriously that there is some kind of economic divided, not only the digital accessibility or the accessibility on the infrastructure. Like we used to have a small shops around our household. They used to be closed due to the lockdown. They are not allowed to open, but the online platform are aggressively working on it. Like they are allowed to deliver at homes. And at the same time, the big companies like in Nepal, there are Bhatbhatini and other big Mars kind of companies, they are open, and they have access, they have infrastructure, they have a value chain supply, everything. So they are able to do the business even in the lockdown. So I think we need to look two different words, sometime differently, and then integrate, like digital and the economy. So at the after this COVID, there is a lot of different kind of conversations that all the economy should be local. There is a anti-capitalism campaign. So there is a conversations about the anti-globalizations kind of thing. So, but at the same time, we need to be integrated that how these digital tools can help the small SMEs and the small businesses, likewise small farmers, to give a kind of ecosystems for the on the future, whether they can jump or they can provide the platform to do their businesses or not.
Thank you. Thank you. So maybe you also a little bit touched upon some of the challenges of digital economy, but let us discuss a little bit in greater details in this third part of our discussion. I request like all of you to give a kind of sense about the some of the major challenges that we are facing with the digital economy. For instance, the ability to adopt and access to new technologies is very paramount in order to have a maximum benefit from the digital technology, and it also affects the how well our digital infrastructure are in place. Similarly, what are the policy that government have in place, or is there any kind of policy barriers that is hindering the implementations of the digital economic activities? Similarly, if we do not have the proper policy in place, then there is also the high chance of widening inequalities, because if you do have access to this certain kind of digital platform, then you'll be able to take advantage. If you don't, then you'll be left behind. So it is also equally important to note down. At the same time, there is also the issues like cybersecurity challenges and others. So if I may, then can I start with Biswas sir? Just try to give us the sense about your reflections about the challenges of digital economy that we are facing right now. You can incorporate some of the point I just mentioned now.
Okay, thank you. One of the stories we did recently was about the online classes the private colleges here are running. So the students are at home and they are being taught through online platforms. But that's only happening in private colleges. In government colleges, there's no such system. You know, there are 100 students in the class, and like there is no logistics. There's nothing. So the students from the government colleges were telling us like, what will happen to us? Look, they are studying online. We don't get to study. We don't know when our exams is. So when we talk about this digitization, yes, there is a question of equity. You know, who are you able to access it? For instance, even the digital services we are talking about, even the kind of services Sauravji provides, it's I guess it's very easy for me sitting in Kathmandu to avail of that service, but how easy for someone outside Kathmandu, you know, to do it. And even if you look at the lockdown, the people understand the necessity of lockdown. And if you see Kathmandu today, I went out and it was completely closed. But even in the villages, I was watching news, and like people are out, they're roaming about, and they say, look, we might or might not be ill from COVID, but we'll definitely, we don't have anything to eat, so we'll definitely die of hunger, you know, even if it's not for the disease. So it's not their priority, you know. So right now the government is giving out information through, for instance, if you call someone, then the first thing you hear is COVID-19 message, right? But does it resonate with all the people? Does it resonate with all the Nepalese? You know, what if that is not my primary concern? What if my primary concern is how do I arrange the next meal for myself? You know, because talking to economists, I get a sense, at least I get a sense that if this situation continues for 2 or 3 months, then our economy could collapse. You know, and if there is no economy, then there is no digital platform, no nothing. So we have to look at the larger picture as well. And I found whatever Mr. Azad was telling us about this system where you can send an SMS, you know, and like you can contact the police, then you can go buy things, essential things. We don't have such system in Nepal. So I guess we are a lot behind in terms of digitization in that sense. And I think what I see is, and what I hear from our reporters outside Kathmandu is that the COVID-19 crisis, digitization, those are not concerns of a lot of people. For instance, those who are now going out of Kathmandu at night, you know, they say we just want to see our families, we want to be with them, because right, even if we stay in Kathmandu, we don't have anything to eat, you know. So what is your primary concern? So unless people's basics needs are met, you know, unless they get enough to eat, then talking about digitization and all these things should be a little fanciful. So I think there has to be a mechanism. The government has to come up with a mechanism in the next 2-3 months. I mean, in maximum, where people's daily needs are taken care of. Those at the bottom rung of the economic ladder, you know, and only then we can think about improving our digital infrastructure. So again, my point being, what is the priority of Nepal government right now? I think right now it's not how to digitize our economy, how to accelerate that process. That's a long-term goal. Right now, it's to provide food to those who need it the most. It's to convince the people at the grassroots that the shutdown right now being done is in their interest. You know, right now they don't believe the state. So these are the different kind of challenges the state is facing, and I think regarding this digitization, it can be a two-way sword. You know, on the one hand, it can ease the lives of many people, but if the lower section of the populace don't have access to basic services, then it could as easily increase the divide between the haves and haves not. So we have to be extremely careful about that.
Okay, thank you. So Azad sir, can you please share with us some of the practical challenges that you are facing while providing the public service through the digital platform?
If I may just, I want to first of all react to 2 points mentioned by Mr. Dhakal and Mr. Baral. Well, I'm the same way, but I want to just to add some further meanings to that. Well, firstly, the issue of the weakness of the globalization and the global supply. I'm not an economist, but this issue has come up to the agenda mainly because of the failure of the global supply chain, especially in the days of the pandemic. And the issue is not having some global supplier or local supplier. The issue is to have the one who can provide you well, the needed materials, means, and everything, products in any given condition. So it means that without any break, without any impact to the process. So first and foremost, this is about the local supply chain. So the best way to, or the easiest way to answer this question is the one who is just next to you, if it's the local one, but not necessarily. It might also be the company which finds itself just in the neighborhood, but it's very close. They can even send their trucks. They can use the aircraft, the jets, EasyJets, or they can use the railway, but not the one that are big giant companies that find themselves like 10,000 kilometers away and they have a difficulty. So that's more or less the meaning as far as I have grasped this very phenomenon, and I totally agree that the means is not that important if we compare it to the result. And the result is that we want to have the supply chain which is supporting us in every time, especially in times of the pandemic, in times of the crisis. Because we might face very, very difficult situations of lockdown and so on and so forth. So we don't want to have a problem vis-a-vis the citizens. As for the issue of digitalization versus the overall economy or the needs of the citizens mentioned by Mr. Baral, well, I think more or less the governments face the same problem. Maybe the gravity of the same problem might be different from one country to another. It might range, but in general, it's not exactly the time when the governments need to optimize their spendings. So what comes in first? And what they need to prioritize and put on the top of their agenda as the most important and effective target, rather than the second one. I totally agree that, for example, in the context of Nepal, they would think about the savings and optimization of the spendings by the government, and to be with a view of using them for the most needed issues, like whatever, but not really digitalization. And our head of the state has also instructed the government to provide the list in order to optimize the spendings, and this time to see what are the most needed issues that we can direct our resources. So therefore, I think it's now exactly the time of not profits, but also effectiveness. So in that sense, I totally agree and thank you to support the view of those that are telling that now the many governments will try to find out the most sustainable ways out of this situation, rather than the profit and rather than the luxury. So we are not talking about the highest quality, rather than the quality that might be served without any break and continuously. And certainly the issue of the challenges, not only to the digital economy, but overall issues, is about the situation of the citizens. Like, what's the penetration rate of the, what's the access to the computers, whether or not they do prefer like electronic tools. I have to admit that when we presented our system, like ASAN system, like about 4 or 5 years ago in Brussels upon their invitation, and they told us that they started back in 2002, and as of this date until now, more than 40% of the population of Belgium prefers face-to-face physical services. But electronically. It was a very big sign for us that we should go through the way of complementarity rather than of one singling out choice. So we kept both services, physical services, but also e-services side by side in order to enable the people to make their choices whenever they need. And we added the mobile services when they can order for this reason or another, these services to their spot, to the hotel, to the restaurant or somewhere, and we left the choice for the citizens. So therefore, I think now the governments, especially those who have been effective, they should share their experience and tell how they feel about the most needed preferred tools for the citizens, and how they prioritized the issues, like whether they started with the digitalization first or they started with the infrastructure throughout the country first, in order to enable, for example, the companies that want to serve electronically the online environment. I can imagine that the companies like the one in the example of Mr. Dhakal cannot really offer online service if there's no access of internet throughout the country, for example. Or we can talk about Internet of Things or artificial intelligence or iClouds. Internet is not the kind of part and parcel of our daily life. So therefore, not only the spending should be optimized, but first and foremost, the targets should be optimized based on the lessons learned during this crisis, that what we need first, whether or not we need to raise up the literacy of the people to handle these online services, or we need to create the good conditions for companies that can get an access to the region, well, throughout the different means, whatever they exist, and then we can offer also the digital environment. So more or less, these are also the lessons learned for us, that we really sometimes touch upon those most needed issues, that now we appreciate them more, we value them more, and we can tell that, oh, the one that for us was a very big deal at the time, they can be left for the next years, because they are not the cornerstone issues, but they are the most needed issues that we cannot live up without them. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I want to share one recent experience that we are facing after this pandemic, is that we need to switch to the cash and delivery to e-payment system, because the subscriber or the consumer doesn't want to give us a cash, or doesn't want to interact directly with the people with the delivery boys or girls. So we need to be switching to the e-payment systems, e-banking, so on mobile banking system. That's before 25 days, we are used to be a cash and delivery system. That's the one biggest shift for ourselves. But interestingly, to give, so everybody is paying on through mobile banking, e-banking. So after 2 or 3 weeks, we didn't have any cash, and we are not able to pay to the farmers because they don't have a proper banking system. Many have their bank, but the bank is not open. So we can transfer the amount to the bank, but they cannot easily receive the cash in their hand. And I think that's a very interesting divide of the accessibility, right? So in Kathmandu, you can do everything by e-banking, mobile banking, and everything. But within the 25 kilometer away, you are not able to use that e-banking system to buy other kind of things. And other interesting things that we learn within this 25 days is about the food mile. So I always try to educate to the consumer that food mile is very, very important for the sustainable food system. So if you are having an apple from US, it's travel a lot of kilometers, right? Number of kilometers. So it's a miles that you have to count. That's why you are paying high price for it. So the same way, if you are eating or having some special food from the mountain, so you have to pay high price for this. And they doesn't understand the price and the relationship with the food mile. But now they realize, oh yes, this is a food mile, right? Because now you are not able to, I'm not able to bring anything after 50 kilometers away from the Kathmandu. Then the customer realizes that, oh yes, this is food mile now. So we have to be consumed within our certain geographical terrain. So with these two learning, I think whether it's going to be a digital economy or any kind of economy after the pandemic, it should be more localized approach. For example, so our government should have to be work parallelly in other priorities, the same ways in the digital priorities. So recently, our Home Ministry announced to provide the e-passes for the vehicle, to give a permission for the vehicle, but it doesn't work. And so nobody get the e-passes from the online system, right? So it's already crashed. So that's why government wants to make a physical distance on this pandemic. So they offer the e-passes, but it doesn't work. So if we are not work in the infrastructure, digital infrastructure from top to bottom, so it doesn't, we cannot work as a digital economy in the long term. So I think it's a parallelly government need to be work on the basic digital infrastructure, whether it's for ease to the government school, private school, in anything. If the lockdowns goes as a longer period of time, so we also need to be work on this everything on the digital way. So for this, I think we need to be work on the both sides.
Okay. Thank you, sir. So I guess you also dealt with with the final part of our discussion. That means the future of digital economy and how the government need to, reform the policy in order to deal with the many impediments that is hindering the flourishment of digital economy. So finally, I'd like to ask Biswas to give us a sense about do you think that the COVID-19 is the a kind of wake-up call for governments around the world to assertively push the agenda for digital economy, and maybe like formulating the right policies to promote the digital economy and strategies for addressing the issues like that we already discussed, a digital divide, and ensuring the inclusive, if I may say, inclusive digital economic growth.
Yep. Okay. Like Saurav said, it's a two-way process. Not just the service providers, the people who get the service, they also have to be ready for it, right? So I think what this current crisis has done is make people realize, even those who rely on hard cash, who get hard cash, who don't rely on e-banking, that having access, digital access, is important. So I think once there's that realization at grassroots, then the political parties and the government respond to it. So now there will be a greater pressure on the governments and at least our major political parties to reform our economy and make it more digitized. If you look at, for instance, next year, both two of our biggest parties, the ruling party and as well as the main opposition, they were supposed to have their general convention, which is the biggest platform, but they cannot have that now. So what they are doing, they are like organizing all the meetings through Zoom, right? They are organizing district level meetings through Zoom. So even among political parties, there is the realization that, oh, look, this digital, having a digital platform to do things is very important right now, and especially during the times of crisis. So I think there will be definitely a more impetus to adopt the digital economy in the days to come, and I think the government will have no option but to go on that route. But the only thing is that while we may broaden the scope of e-payments and e-banking, are those systems secure? The security of the system is as important. If you just increase the scope and make it bigger and bigger and just bring more people into the net, and if the systems are not secure, if the payment portals are not secure, then that could invite an even bigger problem. So in the days ahead, the two tasks of digitizing the economy and making it safe has to go together. But I think certainly this crisis will push that trend, I guess, and I think it should too.
Okay, thank you. So, Azad sir, your take on post-crisis scenario of a digital economy after this COVID-19. Azad sir.
Yeah, it's for me. Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with my colleague, Mr. Baral, that it will certainly going to be kind of a signal. At least there were a number of the lessons learned. So again, for me, the optimization of the resources and spendings, prioritization of the strategic goals for the next years. It's also the importance of inclusion of this, I would say, the most important elements into the strategy of the government for the next years. Sometimes we are putting them as a bunch of the issues in the program of the works, and I think now we need really to think about those areas that are the most critical and the necessary attention of the government without any delay. So again, without any difference between the governments and regardless of their level of the development, because this after the lockdown we saw that even the most developed countries might face very big problems, and it might be before the coronavirus issue, and those that are suffering from this virus might get the higher number in those countries rather than the maybe less developed countries. So therefore, this very situation, in fact, taught us that we need to also create very good infrastructure, as was mentioned, that doesn't only create the good conditions for the service providers, but also the service receivers. So it means that the one that we offer really meets the expectations of those that are going to use this service. And then one very important issue, maybe it's also the somehow kind of strengthening of the point by Mr. Dhakal, which is about the local capacity. We need to work more on the internal local capacity. It means that the most needed issues, the most needed areas of the economy, social welfare, have to be addressed in coming years in order to really to be really sure that this type of the situation will be handled easily and much more, how to say, sophisticatedly, because we have already practiced, well, even if this is the negative sounds of the practice, but we have lessons learned out of this COVID-19 coronavirus issue. And now we need what we have to address, what are the issues. And not to forget, when we talk about the access to the services, when we talk about the digital economy, when we talk about the social welfare services, then we mean the same equal accessing in each corner of the country, regardless whether it's the Kathmandu or it's just on the hills of the, I don't know, Himalaya mountains, or it's the capital city of Baku, or it's a bit far away from the capital city. People should have the same access to the digital services. They should benefit from this type of the infrastructure on the equal footing, and this system should be created throughout the country. And it shouldn't be only for the advantage of particular, let's say, services, but for the most needed ones that have been applied for during these crisis days. So that's going to be my conclusion. And I think really we saw the strengths, but also weaknesses of ours during these days. And I also tend to agree with those that the states and governments that have been very successful in these days get more confidence to their capacity, to their local capacity, and this should be good motivation for them to strive for the completion of the process for creating local infrastructure and local capacity. Mr. Shyam? It seems you have switched off your microphone.
Saurav, sir,
Yeah.
would you like to add your final thoughts regarding the post-crisis scenario of digital economy? Maybe very briefly.
Of course, the digital scope of digital is there. I'm not sure about digital economy for that things, but I assume, or I wish it should be more like people-centric and inclusive digital economy. What that means is, so digital means it doesn't have to be access to the single company or the even for the single government can hold all the data or the accessibility, and they can manipulate those data as businesses, like is happening in around the world right now. Like Amazon has hold of all kind of data, value chain management. Google can hold all the data kind of thing. So it will be switched to this single domain capacity to the public domain or people-centric approaches, and governments need to be work how to make it more inclusive. And as Azad also addressed on that things, that it should be more localized. So then we can see that every local government can do make a different policy, or even they can also work on with the local banking systems, so that every farmer can have the direct access of the cash, or they can also run the cashless systems on their villages. So if that could be happen, so definitely the scope of digital economy is very, very, very interesting, and I think there's a very good scope. Otherwise, it looks like the same aggressive capitalistic approach, that some company will hold all the data, hold the access to the bank, all kind of access to the infrastructures, and the other people will be always left behind.
Thank you, Saurav. I guess you raised a very crucial point. It's not only about the accessibility, but it's also about the inclusivity. So we are talking about the extractive economic models. So if there is also continuations of digital divide, then it will also create the kind of extractive digital economy, I guess. So in order to engage every sector of the populations, we need to have the policy and plans that can really address the need of every citizens. So I guess
Mr. Shyam, the SDGs leaving no one behind. So this is one of the very important passages of the SDGs, leaving no one behind. When we talk about the economic growth, when we talk about the social welfare, when we talk about the business development, so leaving no one behind, it means the inclusiveness and reclamation and addressing the digital divide.
Yeah, absolutely true. So thank you all of you for your time and valuable inputs to this discussion. Maybe we'll continue this kind of web series in coming days, and I really appreciate for your time, and I wish you to stay safe and
we thank you for your efforts. Thank you very much. I enjoyed the presence of Mr. Dhakal, Mr. Baral. I wish you all the best, and I wish that we sooner speak about the coronavirus as the phenomenon in the past.
Yeah. Let's pray for that. Yeah. Sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.